Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And guys, I'm very excited, and we are going to be going over why in this video. I think everyone that is in crypto right now needs to start focusing up, because listen, at this current moment in time, it's been all fun and games for the last 2 years while prices have diminished and gone sideways, and we've seen, pain and frustration. But guess what? Every single day that passes from now on is a major step towards the end goal here, which is we finally get to say the bull run is back. We can't say it yet, but I do think that we are getting very close. We see here from Eleanor Tourette, new. According to Reuters, the SEC Gov does not plan to appeal the grayscale ruling. This squares with a lot of people's predictions on the situation. However, another 7 hours to wait to truly be sure. And of course, yes, we did get confirmation that they do not plan on appealing the grayscale ruling. This is a big announcement. It's a huge announcement, because guess what? We are now one step closer to an ETF being passed. Now, is this bullish? Not necessarily. We're going to be talking about that. We're actually going to be addressing why I'm excited later on in this video. But first, I do want to go over a few things. Listen, this, apart with many of the other decisions that the SEC have made so far this year, are really kind of pinpointing to the fact that the SEC is under an immense amount of pressure, and the losses are piling up. One thing that we talked about back in the end of August was this article here. SEC Chair Gary Gensler's court losses are piling up in crypto, because at that time, well, there was a ton of losses on the SEC's plate, including, yes, the XRP decision. That was a big one. After that decision, though, we've seen many other incredible losses tallied up against the SEC. So beyond this, the ETF decision to not appeal is definitely interesting, but I do think that this is kind of on par with what their plan is, which is to have the Wall Street and the institutions being the ones that are the custodian players behind Bitcoin, which we will get to here in a second. But also, all of these decisions that have been happening around the SEC really kind of pinpoint to the fact that the SEC is definitely overstretching their boundaries around crypto. And outside of that, I do look forward to the day where the SEC is not even a big concern at all to crypto, which to me is kind of right now. I don't really care about the SEC, but again, that's my opinion. Everyone else has their own. But outside of this, when we look at the Bitcoin ETF, I think that I really kind of agree here with Jeremy Hogan. He's saying you will probably make a lot of money soon, and I hope you do. But whatever remained pure and true about Bitcoin will soon be gone. Someone tell me how to feel about this. And we actually see a response by Tom. I'd be pretty stunned if a spot Bitcoin ETF approval actually sent prices surging in a meaningful way. My best guess is there's a big daily green candle and then a retrace. ETFs service institutional demand. They don't create it. And yeah, I completely agree. Like, this is playing into the idea of institutions and Wall Street being the custodian players behind Bitcoin. And I think that JT said it best. JT here to help one. Jeremy is 100% correct. As people cheer for the Bitcoin ETF launch, thinking they will make big profits, the sad reality is they are blindly cheering on the demise of the thing most came to love about Bitcoin. And I even said this back in August. In the beginning of August, I said, I love how the argument from Bitcoin maxis around escaping CBDCs is simply holding Bitcoin. Today's Bitcoin versus 2009 Bitcoin is extremely different. I don't think the original idea of Bitcoin was celebrating and welcoming BlackRock to launch an ETF. Scared of being controlled by CBDCs, but not scared of a scarce asset that is practically priced retail out already, while one of the largest corporations file for a Bitcoin ETF. It makes zero sense to me. BlackRock owns the largest percentage of everything around you. Don't think they will own the largest percentage of Bitcoin either. think again, Bitcoin will soon be corporation controlled. And again, this is my thought process really kind of mixing in with what JT is saying here today, while everyone is supporting a Bitcoin ETF. And we even do see here, like what most fail to realize is it's all a ruse. The infiltration of Wall Street charlatans is a bad thing. Giving additional financial instruments to Wall Street to attach to Bitcoin is merely giving over to them the power to influence and manipulate the underlying price. And don't tell me they can't. Want some proof? Look at gold and silver. Naked shorting is real, manipulation is real, and Wall Street, along with central banks, want nothing more than to attach as many financial instruments and derivatives to Bitcoin as possible. Not only will they use it to profit, they will take away the free flow and decentralization of what Bitcoin was built for in the first place. Last I checked, Bitcoin was freedom from Wall Street and central banks. Now it seems we've decided to go into bed with the enemy whose only intention is control. That is all for now. And yeah, this is the truth. Like, most people don't realize that accepting a Bitcoin ETF and saying, hey, this is going to pump the price. Like, people are literally trading in greed for their control. It's insane to me. But outside of this, right, what we are seeing right now behind these Bitcoin ETFs, it could very well create retail demand and hype and, push the price. But that's not what I'm really kind of looking at. What I'm looking at right now around crypto is a few major signals. One is banks are in trouble, which we've been talking about since going all the way back to March, right? By the way, for those that don't know, March was a big time in this market. Check this out. So this is March of this year, March 8th. This is on a 3-day chart, by the way. Now, during this time, banks started to collapse. And we actually seen Bitcoin kind of follow it a little bit, and it dropped about roughly 20, almost 2.5%. What we've seen after, though, was retail heavily focused on crypto. And it shows in terms of the price movement here. Bitcoin reacted in a very positive way to the banks collapsing, going up about 50, almost 9%. And it continued to actually rise with a total gain of about roughly 63% off of those lows of March. Now we are seeing banks closing the doors. Shout out to MJ Truth Ultra. What do you think is going on here? 50 plus major US banks are closing their doors. Bank of America closes 21, Wells Fargo closes 15, US Bank closes 9, and Chase closes 3. And again, it seems as though we are seeing major continuation of this. In total, some 54 banks had closed or were scheduled to close across the US. And this is just happening recently. Now, could this very well be them consolidating? Sure, it could be. But I also think it is on par with the idea that banks' liquidity is constricted right now. Liquidity around the global financial system is constricted. Banks are losing money. They are hemorrhaging money. One thing that we mentioned earlier this year was the fact that for the first time in a very long time, banks were actually losing money on mortgages. And fast forward to today, we know that many banks have seen major issues regarding money losses, which is why we start to see a lot of banks going belly up back in March, and even fast forward to the summertime as well. And today, I still think that a lot of these banks, well, guess what? They are tiptoeing around broken glass, and it's only a matter of time until, well, you already know what happens. Because going all the way back to 2008 versus where we are at now, there was a substantial amount of bank closings in 2008. And it started slightly in 2007, leading up to all the way to 2009. And even further on, like roughly 2010, 2011, we start to see major historical numbers of banks closing. But during that whole time, it was rough. There was a rough patch in the banking sector. And fast forward to today, we know, well, it's the same exact thing. History is rhyming. And we also know over in Japan, well, Japan's facing problems with banks as well. Shout out to Crypto T for this, but we do see over 1 million people in Japan have their bank accounts frozen since yesterday. 11 of the largest banks in Japan are not working, including JP Morgan Chase. Bitcoin is still online. And again, this is yet again another narrative that could very well pinpoint us to the idea that Bitcoin could very well see a major price move very soon. I also like the overall chart for Bitcoin right now until we lose a substantial level, and that substantial level is roughly about like 26K. I still think that Bitcoin looks very bullish here. We have been waiting on 32K being cleared, which is the big level of interest right now from my perspective. Once we break over that, then we could really kind of target 40K plus. But until then, we have to still be very patient and vigilant. But we also seen yet again another historical factor, Jim Cramer, roughly over 4 days ago, predicting that Mr. Bitcoin is about to go down big. Shout out to Anderson for this clip, and also shout out to Degenerate News for the clip as well. Listen closely to the 6-second long clip.
I just can't get on the, I can't be in something where Mr. Bitcoin is about to go down big.
So there you guys have it. Just a little quick segment there. Jim Cramer is bearish on Bitcoin. Guess what? He was also bearish on Bitcoin and crypto back in December of 2022, December 5th specifically. By the way, during this time, what we were talking about on this channel, I was saying how bullish I am for crypto, and I was even bullish right around FTX imploding. Outside of this, we also seen another post by him in January 23rd. Charts suggest investors should ignore crypto cheerleaders and stick with gold, Jim Cramer says, after he said and urged investors to exit crypto. It's never too late to sell. And again, if we actually look at this from December 5th, let's go and look at this perfectly on the daily chart actually. So from December 5th of last year, so here we have it, Bitcoin and all of crypto essentially has been up massively. Bitcoin is up a historical 90% nearly. That's a huge move for Bitcoin, considering the fact that this is an asset that has well over $500 billion in market cap. At that time, yes, it wasn't $500 billion, but it was very close to it. And it really just shows you that these are major factors to look at. And we really didn't drop too much even from his overall remarks, because if we actually look at December 5th to the bottom here, it was down about roughly 3.5%. So it's been basically up only since those comments. And now we have yet again another comment from him. I'm not saying that we're going to see the same exact price move here. We might even see maybe a little bit of a drop here, maybe give or take, maybe 5%, right? If we seen 5%, we would actually lose 26K and we would come down to about roughly 25.6K, which I could see happening because there's a massive demand here. Now, if that was the case and we actually repeat this process, not to the exact T percentage wise, but if we do see 40K, that would be about roughly 56% almost from those levels, which is what I'm expecting happening, meaning we will see 40K plus very soon. Will we see it by the end of the year? It could very well be a possibility. But I'm really kind of looking at this space right now and I'm just saying, like, to myself, how could you be bearish? I mean, with everything that we have seen so far and all of the major events and the bearishness and things like that, like, how could you be bearish right now? Like, peak bearishness in this market was November of 2022 when FTX collapsed. That was peak bearishness. During that time, everyone was over on Twitter saying the next exchange is going to collapse and, you know, this, that, whatever. And guess what? We basically bottomed. We had a almost double tap bottom, and then we had up only. When we look at this space today, especially even XRP, like, XRP is cleared. XRP is cleared for at least 2.5 years. That's a huge thing to mention. And this entire space right now, as we know, banks are constricting on liquidity, and we know, war is brewing, which I always hate to use that narrative, but we do know that war is bad for the dollar and it's good for risk on assets. And when I say that, it's more so the fact that people are going to park their money somewhere else, because we know that with war comes printing more money. And we also know that the Fed has been talking about CPI and how inflation is down historically, and we're down to 3.7%, which we all know is nonsense. It gives them an excuse to say, hey, we're going to pause the rate hikes. We're going to start printing more money, because, again, Janet Yellen cannot stop printing money because she wants by 2030 to print another $17 trillion. So really, what's the point of parking your money in a savings account right now. And I think that that's where most people are at right now as well. And I think that that's where most people were at back in March when we start to see banks going belly up. I think that they bet against the banking sector by investing into Bitcoin and crypto itself, which could very well be the narrative that we are looking at yet again. But I also think that we are getting very close because the overall sentiment around crypto has been crypto's dead, it's boring, it's frustrating, we're never going up, we're never going to see this gain, we're never going to see that gain. Like most people think that XRP is never going to see $1 plus, which I think is so comical. But that's what you want to see, especially near or at the bottom. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. If you guys want more free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Peace out.